Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Good evening, friends, and welcome to this January 27, 2015 edition of Nightcast. We'll have news of the weather in the United States later in the program. We are going to open tonight by going to Poland, where it's been 70 years since the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland was liberated by Soviet soldiers. It was the largest camp established by Germans during World War II and has become synonymous with the Nazi plan to wipe out Europe's Jewish population. More than 1 million people, the vast majority of them Jews, were killed there. Fergal Kian has been speaking to some survivors who have returned to Auschwitz to remember those who were killed and to be reunited with fellow captives.
The human imagination still struggles to comprehend what was done here. Auschwitz, where humanity comes face to face with its ultimate capacity for evil. More than 1 million people were victims of the Nazi genocide here. They were gassed, shot, hanged, and then burned. Men, women, children, babies. There are voices that were never meant to be heard. 300 survivors are here for the anniversary, but the voice of witness is dwindling with time. A decade ago, there were 1,500. As an 11-year-old prisoner, Mordecai Ronan lost his mother, father, 2 sisters to the death chambers.
I don't believe that I'm here. I can't believe it. I'm strong enough.
The horror reached its climax here, but it began for many in European cities which they thought civilized, where they felt secure. Saya Dugason, arrested in Paris, murdered in Auschwitz.
I want to show you, it's my own side, it's my own stuff.
Her daughter Madeleine escaped the roundup of French Jews by French police working for the Nazis.
I stayed down and I cry, and I know immediately at the moment it's finished. It's finished for my mother. I never see her.
Madeleine was hidden in the countryside by the resistance. Her mother was taken here to Drancy, a suburb of Paris, from where the Vichy French state sent more than 60,000 Jews to Auschwitz.
And I imagine my mother, and I imagine my aunt, imagine the whole family who made the same way, you know. Ah, c'était terrible. C'était terrible. All story from the whole thing come up. C'est pas possible.
Madeleine's mother was killed when Auschwitz was still in its early stages as an extermination center.
Indoctrination and...
Gabor Hirsch was sent to Auschwitz with his family and last saw his mother towards the war's end.
I wanted to give her a piece of bread, and at the end I came back with 2 pieces of bread because she gave me her portion. Well, this was the last time I saw my mother.
Nearly 250,000 children were deported to Auschwitz. From the security of family life to a place of nightmares. What kept you alive?
Luck. You know, I was not very clever, I was not very pretty, I was not very strong.
But you were lucky.
I was lucky, yes.
On the day of liberation, these children were photographed by a Soviet soldier. Among them Gabor. 15 years old, he weighed just over 4 stone.
That's the boy.
Now, for the first time in 70 years, he's being reunited with 4 other survivors from that photograph.
What's your name?
Gabor Hirsch.
Sure, I know Gabor Hirsch.
Yeah.
I even know the name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recognize you. We both changed there a little bit.
Well,
For the survivors, Auschwitz is a story of limitless loss that they feel bound to tell and retell while they still can. For humanity, it represents a moral catastrophe whose warnings about ethnic, religious and racial hatred go so often unheeded.
And friends, news I want to make sure included this week on for you tonight. Weather in the United States. While New York seems to have avoided the worst of the winter storm, currently hitting the east coast of the U.S., Massachusetts and Connecticut have seen around 2 feet, 60 centimeters of snow in badly hit areas. Some houses have been evacuated and some have lost power. The BBC's Gary O'Donoghue, who is in the coastal town of Scituate in Massachusetts, said the problem for the town would now be the floodwater.
We're just on a sort of coastal town here, really, and a lot of the houses behind me have been evacuated. Some of them have lost their power, mainly because the floodwaters are gathering along this part of the coast here. The seawall has been breached just below us. The high tide is expected in the next few moments, and I think the problem here will be that flooding in the next few hours, I would say. In the rest of the state, we've seen up to 31 inches in Worcester, Massachusetts, 2 feet elsewhere in Boston. The west of the state has got away a bit more likely with about a foot of snow, and some of the travel restrictions have been lifted in the western part of the state as well. But the travel ban remains in place in the eastern part of Massachusetts, and pretty much no one's venturing out.
Gary, we see the odd person there in the pictures that we're seeing from your area, but are many people around, or did most people leave?
I can't quite hear what you're saying, Cathy, to be honest, because the wind here is blowing absolute gale force and the snow is whipping up. But people are really heeding the advice of the authorities here. They're staying indoors, they're hunkering down, they've got food in. Some people here have been evacuated, as I was saying, to sort of care centres to be looked after. There will be a discussion, I think, about whether or not transport can reopen tomorrow in the Boston area, whether the trains and the metro can run there properly. But at the moment, I think people are waiting for the storm to pass, and it's going to be the early hours of Wednesday before that can happen. And then, of course, the clear up and the real impact will be able to be shown.
Friends, I have a video over Boston, where areas of the northeast U.S. have shut down as heavy snow falls across the entire region. There, more than 5,000 flights have been canceled, and I should say for the whole area, more than 5,000 flights have been canceled, and over 2 feet of snow, 60 centimeters of snow, is predicted in some areas. Meteorologists say winds of over 70 miles per hour, that'd be the equivalent of 112 kilometers per hour, are expected. The National Weather Service has described the storm as potentially historic. Gary O'Donoghue, again, this time reporting from Boston.
From Maine to Philadelphia, the northeastern United States is shutting down to prepare for one of the worst winter storms in decades. An emergency has been declared in several states, closing schools, government agencies, and banning most vehicles from the roads. In Massachusetts, 800 snowplows and gritters are hitting the streets, and Boston residents are preparing for the worst.
Candles, flashlights, extra batteries, radio that runs on batteries, board games. I got 3 children at home.
In New York, the subway shut early. Broadway boarded up its theatres, and New Yorkers struggled with the elements as they headed home to sit out the onslaught.
We just went and bought, $40 worth of food, so we're going to stay inside and eat and watch Netflix.
This is literally the calm before the storm. It's about to start in earnest, and when it does, it's going to come in very fast, very hard, and people have to be very, very careful.
Widespread disruption of public services is expected over the next few days, with thousands of flights already cancelled and train operators warning of limited or no service. Here in Massachusetts, the blizzard is really starting to kick in. Parts of the state are expecting up to 30 inches of snow, and there could be hurricane-force winds off the coast, bringing substantial power outages and flooding. The northeast United States is bracing itself for a bad couple of days. Gary O'Donoghue, BBC News, Boston.
Here's a from 3 hours later where BBC, the official of the operation, had spoiled their plans for some fun in the snow.
We were surprised at how quickly everything's been cleared up. It's almost too good for us because we wanted more snow for the skis, but they keep coming through with the plows. It seems like they're doing a great job.
All right, take care now.
Thank you.
Drone video showing the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp as it is today, 70 years after it was liberated. Now, this will be 70 years actually yesterday, if we want to be exact on the button. 70 years after it was liberated by Soviet troops. And we're doing a shorter report tonight, friends, because and we're those of you who watch live, I apologize. We're 5 hours late tonight because I just spent the last 5 hours struggling with adjustments on our equipment and software to get the what happened the night before. The audio was stuttering all over the place, and even though we did a live broadcast on the night before last, on Monday night, I know many of you didn't see it because if you didn't watch live, we didn't put it in the archive because the recording just was full of all kind of stuttering. I think we've got that fixed. In the meantime, we've already set things underway to order new piece of equipment, upgrades on the software that runs some of it, and so we're taking steps to correct the problems that we have. But tonight I'm being shorter because we may stick this in Facebook, a short version. We have to keep that under 20 minutes so that some of you may have been scratching your heads who watch for us on Facebook and say, well, what happened to you guys? Well, this will explain it. But we're going to close tonight with some of that aerial video of the camp in Poland, which is now maintained as a World Heritage Site and is visited by thousands of tourists and survivors every year. Auschwitz was the largest camp established by the Germans during World War II, as I mentioned earlier. And as you heard in the opening video, more than 1 million people, the vast majority of them Jews, died there between 1940, when it was built, and 1945, when it was liberated by the Soviet Army. You'll see in the opening railway tracks in the Auschwitz-Birkenau, trains filled with victims from throughout occupied Europe arrived at the camp almost every day between 1942 and the summer of 1944. You'll see in this video ruins of wooden huts at Birkenau or Auschwitz II, which was erected in 1941 solely as a death camp. The wooden huts are now in ruins with only brick fireplaces and chimneys remaining. Entrance to Auschwitz I, the wrought iron sign over the entrance bears the words Arbeit macht frei. That's my stab at German on it, which means in English, work sets you free. Auschwitz I, the brick-built buildings were the former cavalry barracks of the Polish army. The courtyard between the blocks 10 and 11 of Auschwitz I, Block 11 was called the Block of Death by prisoners. Executions took place between Block 10 and Block 11, and posts in the yard were used to string up prisoners by their wrist. Auschwitz-Birkenau is now a museum run by the Polish Culture Ministry and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That'll give you a little insight into what you're seeing with our closing video tonight, friends. This January 20th edition of Nightcast for tonight. The rise tomorrow night with current news related to the Bible and prophecy. And if you're watching or you get information from Facebook, we're going to put a special on there that I'm not able to show you here. I'm going to roll it in the background, though. I'm not able to play it fully because of the music that's in this particular video, but it shows from in the licensing requirements on the music prevent me from being able to show it on the YouTube archive. It's from BBC Inside Out, where they meet Dorit Oliver-Wolff, who lived through the Holocaust and went on to become a famous German singer. Watch for our special related to that. And the famous German singer, Dorit, who was, when she was 5 years old, Jewish girl living in Hungary when Nazism started to spread across Europe. It's a whole special report. Watch for that later directly on Nightcast. But until next time, friends, your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long and good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on COGTV.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the COGTV.org video archive.